Our next company presenting is Innate Immunotherapeutics. They've come all the way from New Zealand to be here today, and we're really appreciative. I must say we've been fortunate to have some fantastic New Zealand companies present at our events in the past. And the previous one was Caldera, which is phenomenal, and obviously now Innate will be presenting. So please welcome the CEO, Simon Wilkinson, to the stage.
Thanks, Steve. I think we might be the only New Zealand company on the agenda today, so we'll get the formalities out of the way. Sorry about the netball. Sorry about the World Cup. Four Nations is looking not too good for you guys, but, you know, it is what it is. It's all about ups and downs, but you did pretty well in the Olympics. So here's our forward-looking statement. We are a bit of a different biotech in that even though we have some additional assets in the pipeline, we're very tightly focused on one particular indication. We're well along the human trialling, and so this is very much becoming one of those biotech single shot on goal. But that goal is now very close, the timeline's very close, and we think we've got a very strong chance of actually scoring the winning goal, and by a bigger margin than last night. So, company overview, we are a New Zealand company. We've been around since 2000. We've had audited accounts throughout our lifespan. We've successfully raised 40 million real dollars, call them Australian or US, but not Kiwi dollars, into the venture over that 13 years. We have 1,700 shareholders, but we are not listed, which makes us somewhat unusual. The venture capitalists are terrified by the prospect of 1,700 shareholders. However, they all own ordinary shares, and there are no complicated shareholder agreements that make the lawyers rich and managing the company a nightmare. We're a small company operating a lot by way of virtual collaborations with international academics around the world. Some of those include the Roswell Park Cancer Institute, also Purdue, and one of the universities up in Japan. We make our own drug, so we have GMP manufacturing facilities already in place. And while we might be located in Auckland, New Zealand, just under half the company is owned by US investors, just under half by New Zealand investors, and then there's a small group of both Australian and international investors. As I said, we've got multiple shots on goal, but it's really the orange arrow up the top, which is all about secondary progressive multiple sclerosis, which I'm really talking to you about because that is our key focus. Multiple sclerosis, what is it? It's an autoimmune disease, which is a flash name for the body is attacking the myelin around the nerves inside the brain. Your nerves conduct messages a wee bit like the wiring in your house conducts electricity. If you strip the insulation off the wiring in your house, guess what? It shorts out. Exactly the same thing is happening in multiple sclerosis. The body is attacking the myelin. The messages aren't going down the nerves properly. They're either not getting to where they need to go, or the message is slow in arriving where it needs to go, or it's got garbled along the way. 85% of patients diagnosed with MS are diagnosed with an early stage or relapsing remitting form of the disease. During that disease process, they will have an attack which will leave them disabled. They will normally repair to a large extent, and then they'll go through a period of remission where there won't be a further attack. Those patients right now have 8 drugs approved to try and slow down the rate that those attacks occur or lessen the severity of the attack. That isn't our market. Approximately 2/3 of those patients at some point progress onto a late-stage disease which is all about progression. There is no remission for these patients. It's all downhill disability. There are no drugs approved to treat those patients. And that's an estimated $3 billion market based on the fact that the existing drugs treating early stage disease right now are generating approximately $11 billion per annum. As I've touched on, At the top of the slide, we've got a healthy nerve. The little orange blots along the nerve are intact insulation or myelin. Below that, we see what happens after immune cells have left the bloodstream, have gone inside the central nervous system, have chewed on that myelin. That causes the signals to short out, which manifests itself in a whole range of disabilities in these patients. So the investment summary here is straightforward. There are no drugs approved to treat this form of multiple sclerosis. Right now, 30% of all MS patients have this form of MS and are not being treated. It's a $3 billion market. We have completed our first significant human study. It was reported 2 months ago. Our drug is safe, it's well tolerated, and we've seen significant improvement in the clinical status of those patients with secondary progressive. Were we surprised at this outcome? No, we weren't. In New Zealand, we've been able to treat patients on a compassionate basis before entering formal clinical trials. We call it compassionate use. It's something that's allowed actually in Australia as well, but the key difference in New Zealand is that we have laws in place that prevent patients from suing their doctors. It makes the lawyers really grumpy, but we actually quite like it. That's allowed us to actually treat a number of patients. We established that the drug was achieving a significant improvement in these patients before we then took the drug into formal clinical trials. We are now raising $10 million, over half of which will be spent here in Australia, because next year we will run a much larger, longer study in Australia in secondary progressive. This company will then be sold in 2015 to one of 5 pharmaceutical companies that we're already in discussions with. What is the drug? It's a little microparticle. It's about 2 micron long, so it's really, really small. It looks a bit like a bacteria in that it's a rod-shaped small particle. It targets the innate wing of the immune system, and it targets particular cells within the immune system called the myeloid cells. Those myeloid cells containing our drug then traffic inside the central nervous system, and the proposed mechanism of action is that once they are inside the CNS, they are both shutting down the inflammation that's associated with this disease, and they are also stimulating the body's cells that clear away the myelin debris from recently attacked nerves. And researchers now in many institutions around the world have shown that if you can clear away that myelin debris, the body will actually generate new myelin around these damaged nerves. How do we know most of this? It's because as we're a particle, we can attach fluorescent labels to it. And so we can look inside animals and see which cells have taken up the drug, and we can even look inside the brain, and there you'll see the little fluorescent dots indicating that our drug inside these target cells has reached the right compartment, which is inside the brain. Our clinical results to date, we're extremely pleased with. As I say, we're safe, we're well tolerated, but more important, over half the subjects that we've treated have shown a significant improvement in their physical quality of life, a significant improvement in their cognitive abilities. We've even improved the disability score in these patients, notwithstanding the trial was only over 3 months. The trial that we've just completed attracted $500,000 support from the MS Society in the United States and Merck Serono, and $600,000 from the New Zealand government. This is the profile of a patient that's done well, significant improvements across a whole range of clinical signs and symptoms. Again, looking at all the patients in the recent study, significant improvement in quality of life. From a commercial standpoint, who will end up owning this program? It will be Biogenetic or Novartis or EMD Serono, Pfizer or Teva. 3 of those companies are actively assisting us right now with the design of our next clinical trial. I won't go over the key points. We've got a stand over there with material. Please come and talk to me afterwards. I'm going to close with a quote from one of the silverback gorillas in multiple sclerosis research. Progressive MS is now believed to be mediated by the innate immune system. There's no accident in our name here. It should be possible to design therapies to transform the pathogenic innate cells to cells that are more regulatory. Well, that is exactly what we've done with our drug. Thank you very much.